Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Skett and I'm delighted to be joined by Liam Corbett from This Is My Story. Also can be found on BBC and can be found on Sky, where he said unthinkable rather than unthinkable. But we won't dwell on that. How's it going, Neil?
I'm good, mate. Okay, my 15 minutes in the sun and I made up a word. The thing that people didn't see is right behind the camera there was like 6 or 7 workies on their break, so they were like asking the camera guy like, "Who's this guy? What's going on?" Whilst we were trying to talk, and it was like so distracting. But I thought I did it right.
Honestly, I would not have noticed. Would not have noticed you getting the word wrong, because I get it wrong all the time. Get words wrong all the time. But it was only until you messaged me, and then as I said to you, like the 3 things from the takeaways were Hearts fans praising you for what you said, people questioning unthinkable, and then others were like, why, when you mentioned that Hearts are going to Azerbaijan to play Minsk, querying that on the map as if they didn't know that was what was happening. But no,
I know, but there'll be some laugh being a Hearts fan just now, innit?
Yeah. It's been great. I just said to you off-air that it'd be great just for them to be normal for a wee bit, but there we go. We're here to we'll chat to you a wee bit about the manager search, but also just it's more about Andrew McKinlay's update that he did with, I think he did with Sky, but the one he did with the HeartsTV, which they kind of got released this morning after a kind of wee teaser last night. But before we get into that, I do have some words from our sponsor, and I am unprepared as always, so I don't have the words in front of me. I do now. Good Vibes Giveaways are proud to sponsor Hearts Standard and offer fantastic prizes to fans of the club. Prizes change weekly and include tech, gadgets, days out, weekends away, tax-free cash, and even OASIS tickets. We know how expensive they were. Get your tickets now at www.goodvibesgiveaways.com and enter for your chance to spread the good vibes sunglasses emoji. And you can find all the details in the description of this video on YouTube, and be sure to subscribe to Hearts Standard YouTube. Now, like I said, we are here to chat about Hearts and the latest going on at Tynecastle. Before we kind of break down Andrew McKinlay's update, what did you make of the update in general?
Well, first and foremost, I like that Andrew fronts up. I think it's the Hearts board gets a lot of stick, rightly in my opinion, for things, but Andrew never shies away from anything. I think the update was honest and as open as it could be. As always, I laughed when I seen the people that picked it up, and I'm sure we'll touch on it, said that Steven Naismith could have saved his job if he'd had a better second half. I didn't really think that's what he meant. I think it was just more about showing everybody that they'd given the opportunity as much as they possibly could to keep Naismith and the team in a job, but they were getting nothing back. I think it's good to have someone come in front up, and Andrew always hit or miss, good news, bad news. He always comes out and at least lets us know what's going wrong. So it was good to hear from him. I think it needed to have something out there. I thought Steven Naismith gave a very classy farewell thing as well, which I thought he spoke well in his thank you to the fans, and there was no sour grapes there. He understood it wasn't good enough, which I don't know if there's any Hearts fans out there that are arguing against that. So it was good to hear from the club officially what happened and what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I mean, both McKinlay and Naismith as well. I think especially Naismith understands. Yeah, I dropped a message just to say it was kind of great dealing with him, which it was during the last year or so. He found him really accommodating, open to answering any questions, and like we've been to events where he won't shirk any questions. He's happy to have anyone ask anything of him, but he also understands the nature of football, and if you don't get results, that's you cost. You end up losing your job as a manager. I think he accepted that and understood that, and knew the start wasn't anywhere near as good enough as it should be for Hearts. And I'm kind of glad you, going on to McKinlay, glad you mentioned that about the 45 minutes and how some viewed it as he could have saved his job within 45 minutes. I suppose, I take it you understand where McKinlay was coming from, because I know having spoken to you before, and when you spoke on Sky Sports, that you felt that the board actually gave Naismith more time than probably he should have got.
Yeah, like I said, I questioned what was the differentiator, what was the straw that broke the camel's back on Saturday versus full-time like Celtic, full-time versus Dundee United, full-time versus Motherwell, full-time v Dundee. It was a point at Dundee, getting 4-0 down against Dundee. VR chopped the goal off. We were having an absolute stinker. And again, I think what Andrew spoke about was that there was no light at the end of the tunnel. And if you'd seen Hearts come out in the second half and really put on a performance, then you'd maybe say, right, the guys are behind the manager here. They've managed to kick themselves into gear. They understand what's needed. Anybody that watched Hearts in the second half on Saturday knew that, whether it be nighttime, Saturday, Sunday, wherever it may be, that Steven Naismith wasn't keeping his job. We just played, it was so tepid in the second half against St Mirren. It was powder puff. There was no fight. There was no desire. There was nothing to. I mean, you look at, we're 2-0 down at Ross County at home, got 2-2 draw. 2-0 down at home at Dundee, 1-3-2. 2-0 down at Dundee away, 1-3-2 last year. We had loads of Roy of the Rovers comebacks where we managed to dig ourselves out a hole. We've not looked anywhere near that this season. Even at Dundee, we get the goal, we miss a couple of chances, but we were never really looking like we're going to get back in it. Same at Motherwell, same at Celtic Park.
Absolutely, I agree with that. But the big one for me is on Saturday, and I talked about it on, I think it was either video on Saturday or video on Monday, that the Hearts didn't have a shot between the start of the second half and the 85th minute, I think it was, and you're like, you're behind, you're losing, and you need to win essentially to save. Everyone kind of knows if we lose here, then there's a good chance that Naismith's getting sacked, and then I can understand what McKinlay was kind of saying, that there might have been a wee bit difference if the team had showed, like, if they just batter St Mirren and maybe got unlucky, that it might have changed things. I don't think it would have, just because of the external, the noise from Hearts fans, and justifiably so. It would have been another defeat, but there was none of that, and you used the word tepid, and I'll go back to I think looking back at one of the key results at the start of the season was Victoria Pilsen at home. I think we talked about it at the time. You're expecting Hearts to come out and have a rousing performance, big night, big European night under the lights at Tynecastle, full crowd. The crowd were looking to be energised. They energised the team to begin with, and they were looking for something back. Hearts never gave them anything back, and it was just so. It was just such a nothing performance on such a big occasion.
Yeah, and we've spoken about it privately before as well. But that's my biggest thing right now with Hearts, is that identity. Like, there's nothing about Hearts that is Hearts for me right now. You even talk about the big European nights. We keep saying that. They're not really big European nights, because the atmosphere ends up flat after 10 minutes. The performances, I look back at John McGlynn at home to Liverpool. We get, I think they scored a deflected goal or whatever to win 1-0, and then the performance away from home. But we were well in those ties, and we've punched well above our weight in Europe throughout our history at home at Tynecastle, and we just didn't have that. There just doesn't seem to be, like, it doesn't matter whether we're playing Dundee, whether we're playing Pilsen, whether we're playing Rosenborg, whether we're playing whoever. There doesn't seem to be a game that we're coming all guns blazing. Everything, like Craig Levein at home to Celtic, we were at them from the very first minute. It was high press, it was energetic, we were slamming into tackles, we were shooting, we were aggressive. We just don't have that, and we don't. I think that's what worries me. Worried me throughout the Naismith thing and the Robbie Nielsen thing as well, is that we've kind of not lost our identity, but we'd have lost a bit of our Heartsness. You know what I mean? When I think back at,
there's definitely elements of its Hearts have been unrecognisable. Certainly from how we kind of grew up and what we saw from from Hearts teams in the past. And you look at it, I've said it a few times, I don't like Hearts fans are really demanding, but I don't think they're easy. I don't think they're hard to please. And if they see a team that are up for it, high tempo, aggressive, who get in the opposition players' faces, they play direct, they play quick, they take players on. And over the last, I would say for a couple of seasons, where it's kind of went away from that into more control of the ball and kind of round shape and keeping possession, breaking teams down. It was just like, it's not really what Hearts are about. Certainly not in my eyes.
No, and I think Cammy Devlin is a great example of, people always say Hearts fans are demanding and really hard to please. Cammy Devlin is a great counter to that, right? Because Hearts fans adore Cammy Devlin. Cammy Devlin's a very limited footballer, but he gives you every single thing that he has. He tries as hard as he can. He's always tenacious. He's always running at his full speed. He's always flying into tackles. He's tenacious. He does everything that you want him to do. You acknowledge that he's not he's not a brilliant football player. He's never going to take us to the next level. He's probably playing at the highest level that he'll play, but he gives you everything that he has. And I look around the team, especially on Saturday. You look around that team on Saturday and think, right, they're fighting. They're supposed to be the third best team in the country. They're fighting for their manager. They're fighting. There's a sellout away end. They're fighting for the fans, and that's what we get. Did every Hearts player that walked off that field on Saturday, could they say they tried their absolute hardest? Were they playing to the best of their abilities? Did they fight for every single ball? And I think that's what when Andrew was talking about, if we'd seen something in the second half, I think that's what he was speaking about, more about just see something, so a glimmer of hope that this is going to turn around, it's going to change, because we'd been too far down the line now. This was a game in hand, and I think that's what people forget about Saturday. This is our game in hand. We brought that forward so we could get 3 points on the board, put a bit of pressure on the guys up above us, and we've lost it. So now, even if we do win Saturday and win at Pittodrie, you still have a game in hand. So any sort of momentum that you build up, they're always going to have that 3 point cushion to go 3 points again in front of where we are. And I think that was the differential. I think that was the final nail in the coffin on Saturday, was actually, this is backfired and we need to drastically fix it.
Yeah, and speaking of fixing it, it means that we're looking for a new head coach. What did you make of McKinlay's comments around how the recruitment process is going to go, the involvement of analytics within that, the fact that the club will come with their own targets, the analytical company, I think it's going to be Jamestown Analytics, they'll bring their own targets, and it'll kind of whittle down, and then we go from there in terms of interviewing and seeing who's the right fit, money, etc., style, etc. What did you make of McKinlay's take on it all?
Well, first, again, I think that, I questioned the timing of it, because it could have been 3 weeks ago. But the thing that's most encouraging for me, and about I think the board need praised, is the fact that it was all of them. We got rid of Robbie Nielsen and Jig the last time, but kept Gordon Forrest for continuity. This time they've cleared the decks, so it's pretty clear that, in my opinion, using the analytics with the view of what's to come, they're going to look for, actually, we want to change everything. We're not looking for continuity this time. We're looking for somebody to come in and to fix it proper, to proper got out what needs to be fixed, and have a new backroom team, a new coaching staff, new voices, new ideas. Because again, any of us sit and we say, what's our biggest frustration about Hearts right now? We're sitting saying, well, actually, if we rewind to what were the mistakes we were making last season, what were the mistakes we were making the season before, what were the mistakes we were making the season before, we seem to have a continual theme. And it makes sense, right? The coaches, that Gordon Forrest has been at both teams. He was in Robbie Nielsen's backroom staff. He's in Steven Naismith's backroom staff. We are there or thereabouts the same formation. We have the same style of play, or the same tactics. We're terrible at set plays. We've somehow randomly went all of last year not conceding from a set play. And I think this season we've decided to undo all of that by conceding from every set play, just to rebalance the universe. So I think they're praised for getting rid of everybody, and then what comes next will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they do, because if they want to try and I know it's hyperbole to say save the season, right? We've still got hundreds to play for, and it's not unthinkable that Hearts couldn't go finish third, right? I get all that, but where we are right now, you have to look at realistically where we're at. We're 14 points behind Aberdeen, who have a game in hand. We play them soon. You could be looking at as much as 20 points behind them. Yeah, we could cut the gap if we win, but we need to do something. So do they go through tried and tested? We've been sort of notorious for looking down the corridor and promoting from within, or going back to familiar faces that we know. Are we going to go tried and tested and get a Derek McInnes, Stephen Robinson, someone that's done well in the Premier League? I would like Derek McInnes. That would be my choice, but I don't think he'll come. I don't think he'll work under the structure, and I don't think he'll feature on any of the analytic reporting. So then it's all down to what does the analytic group bring up and who's going to come in, because whoever comes in, it looks like it's going to be a project. I hope that they can fix it fast, but it's going to be a bit of a long-term project.
Yeah, my bit of thing, looking at it a couple of ways. So in terms of the recruitment of the manager, I think it was interesting looking at Brighton and Union Saint-Gilloise there. I think the Union Saint-Gilloise, their first appointment was a guy who was pretty experienced. I googled him actually yesterday, Felice Mazou, who's now in his late 50s, and they appointed him, and he had been around the block to an extent. He did really well for them. And then you look at Brighton, they've kind of gone with, more recently, they signed they appointed a really, really young guy this summer, but they've also had like a 4-year spell with Chris Hughton as well. So they've gone down experiences. So I'm not of the view that it will definitely be a young guy who was how did you put it on Sky was managing the under 23s in the Belgium B League and plays really nice football. So I can definitely, I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of profile was involved, but I wouldn't say it's a dead cert that it's going to be that type of profile. I think what we'll say with the involvement of the Alex and Tony Bloom, I think the net will be wider than it has been when Hearts have appointed before. And then on the kind of the other side of that is my concern, and this is not just related to Hearts, this is related to any team in Scotland, is that, or just any team in general, it's so hard to come in at this point in the season, and you're looking for patience, because you need patience to settle in. It's not your squad. You need to get kind of used to the squad, used to the league, etc. You're looking for patience, but even though fans will say, "Oh yeah, we'll be patient with him," if it doesn't go well, minds will start being made up before he's been given time to then work as well. So you look at Aberdeen with Jimmy Thalen. Big thing for them was he was able to come in and have the whole summer, and then also being able to be in the League Cup as well. So they're playing lower league opposition to kind of ease his way in and get his methods and thoughts across. It's far more difficult doing that coming in now.
Yeah. And that's my big worry with it, is that, and I said it on my podcast, that it's different at Hearts because you have to win pretty much every week. All right, so you come in and say it as someone from left field that's a bit of a Daniel Stendhal type guy that's going to play the type of football that we want. That's going to take time to embed. All right, and then for it to be successful, you have to look at recruitment, and did we recruit the players that we recruited in the summer? Will they fit into any of this new expansive style? If that's what we go down, they'll need to embed, the manager will need to embed. But you're also playing Thursday, Sunday. We are also now watching Aberdeen, Hibs, whoever it may be. They could potentially win week in, week out, and you're not. So the pressure just grows and grows and grows and grows, and we could unearth an absolute diamond, like I said, for the the Belgian under-23 manager or whatever. We could unearth a total diamond, but by December, if we haven't seen a significant uptake in results, folk will chase him out. We'll chase him out, and that's my worry, is that the things that we're doing wrong, they need fixed in a pre-season. This pre-season that we just had was a mess. It seemed an unorganised mess. We didn't play enough games. The length of time between games was mental, and we look like we're suffering for it right now. We look unfit. We look bamboozled by whatever it is we're trying to do. And a manager asking someone that doesn't know the league, doesn't know the players, to come in, fix that, win, and get us to where we need to do it all within the space of 2 to 3 weeks is a very, very, very big ask. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know what the answer is. Thank God that's not my
because I'm like you. I think we probably have the same view on Derek McInnes, but also wary that just with the structure, just the way he works, when he was at Aberdeen, he's at Kilmarnock, he likes to have real control over the football department. He has his own head of recruitment, and I think it's the guy's Russ Richardson. I think there's a stat out as well that I can see on Twitter today that off the X amount of players he signed for Kelly, only 2 have come from abroad, whereas we're kind of shopping in different markets, especially if there's recruitment. The recruitment kind of analysis will take us down a certain route. But also with McInnes is that I can understand other fans and they are concerned about him or Robinson, about guys who have been around the league. And the last thing you want to do is appoint a manager who is immediately going to split the fan base, because that's kind of been the case for the past 2 or 3.
I think you could rule Stephen Robinson out. Hearts won't touch Stephen Robinson.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
They won't touch Stephen Robinson. Not with the image of the club and all that stuff. They won't go for someone like Stephen Robinson. It won't happen. Derek McInnes, I get it. I have that. I talked to Laurie on HeartsTV who says, "Oh, I lived in Aberdeen and they hated him and all this sort of stuff." And you say, "I know, but he finished second X amount of times with Aberdeen." No, take that with a pinch of salt because Rangers were there. Imagine us taking things with a pinch of salt. Oh, I know, we only finished third, because if we finished third season after season after season after season, we wouldn't care what the style would be like. If you look back to all the best Hearts teams that have been about, Jim Jeffries didn't play expansive, brilliant football. He just knew how to get results. And the thing that I like about Derek McInnes is he gets the best out of average players. He gets the best out of his team, and that's what we need. I want a team that's full of legs, physical, isn't like Saturday where it just gets rolled over and has its belly tickled and we go up the road, because I want us to go fight. And that for me that's what Derek McInnes brings. Yes, failure against the old firm is something that maybe comes in. I think we've won like 3 games since 1990 or something like that at Ibrox versus Rangers, so let's not measure them against this prolific history that we have of beating the old firm. Let's measure them on, I think the lowest ever finished with Aberdeen was 4th. I think he played something like 5 or 6 consecutive years in Europe with Aberdeen.
8 or 9.
Yeah, like all of the things that we're sitting here now saying, if a manager was to come in, what would we want him to do? Right, consistently finish 3rd. A bad season would be finish 4th. Right, well, he ticks that box because he never finished lower than 4th with Aberdeen. Get to semi-finals, get to finals. Right, he did that religiously. Play in Europe every single year. Yep, he does that religiously. Find a player, sell a player for big money. Well, he did that at Aberdeen. He does that religiously as well. Constantly find and rejuvenate a team so that it goes again the next season. Well, he did that at Aberdeen. And that for me that's what I want. I'm sick of going to Hearts games and not knowing what I'm going to see. I don't know what the starting 11 is going to be. I don't know if we're going to play 3 at the back, 4 at the back. We're playing 2 up front, 1 wide. Is Shankly will be in the 10. Is the midfield going to change? Is the back 2, the 2 centre backs, are they going to change? Is the goalkeeper changing? Every week. We all laugh. We wait for the roulette of the team sheet coming in at 2 and then try to figure out what's happening. Because Stephen Kingsley's on the team sheet. That doesn't mean that he's playing left back. He could be playing right midfield. He could be playing in the six. It could be, you don't know. And I just want to know what I'm going to get when I go watch Hearts, and I think that's Derek McInnes.
Yeah, what I would add to that is that with Jeffries, I look at Jeffries and I think there was a bit of expanse. Like, at least with Jeffries, you knew Hearts were going to attack teams, like, and they would be direct, and you knew that they would look to win games as well. McInnes, in terms of his style, I think it gets overshadowed, but when his first couple of years at Aberdeen, they're really good to watch with the players that they had. And Kilmarnock, I don't mind watching Kilmarnock. Like you said, you know what you're going to get with them. But I think, as Beat Bop Boop says, I think Derek McInnes would be the right man for right now. In terms of long term, I understand the want for a foreign manager. I do think it's one of those people of. It just goes round in cycles. People want something a wee bit different, and then if that doesn't work out, they'll go, right, like, let's go for someone we know who's going to get the job done. So yeah, it's going to be a fascinating appointment process, that's for sure, for the names that are going to come up. Just moving on to a wee bit more of his McKinlay's update. Was there anything else kind of stood out? What did you make of his comments? The other two things that stood out for me were, I know he couldn't really get drawn too much on the investment, but did say, I think he said to Sky, that it was exciting. And then he spoke about the sporting director role as well, with Graham Jones, how it'll be slightly different to the one that Joe Savage kind of oversaw, and that makes that's no surprise, considering the shake-up of the recruitment department with the possible investments. So was there anything else that kind of stood out for you in what Andrew McKinlay said?
No, like I said, that it makes people were questioning the Joe Savage stuff in the background. He kind of quietly left the club, no very much fanfare, after having been pretty successful in what he'd done, been quite an integral part of what Hearts were all about. And then obviously, you now understand the actions in the summer by the potential investors, and then what this is going to look like kind of makes sense. You know, it's probably someone that doesn't want to work in that environment. It makes his role almost redundant, as he was the sort of overseer of that recruitment team and recruitment department. If now they're not going to work it, but you know, there's something that's better than what we've done. So that made sense. I like it's the lazy stuff of, and we do it, we're guilty of doing it too, because we care and only care about Hearts, but the laziness of everybody else outside of Hearts talking about, I like that he nailed down they're not a feeder club. You know, we're not affiliated to Brighton. We won't be affiliated to Brighton in any way, shape or form. If it does transpire that Tony Bloom invests in the football club, it's not, like you said, I know that Andrew last season was pretty vocal, and rightly for me, about the whole multi-club system and clubs becoming feeder teams or dumping grounds for players, and then also swallowing up assets to protect any investments in case it does go south. That's not what's happening here. So that was good that he nailed that down. I like that it's obviously a very exciting prospect of what's coming on. The other thing as well is that obviously a lot of people keep referring back to this Foundation of Hearts vote, which I think we're miles away from that right now, because what we're talking about coming in won't require any shares or anything like this. Is basically a free trial of something that's had nothing but guaranteed success in Belgium and in England. So it's exciting in that regard. And then I found it interesting about the Shanklin stuff. Obviously he's not closed the door for it, but explained, no bids, and the club are comfortable if he chooses to leave for free. Obviously then that would happen, but they're also open to discussing contract terms with him. So yeah, I thought it was a good interview. I thought he covered all the bases. He talked well. I think if there's any nerves out there as to what's going on in the background, I like the explanation about the contract extensions as well. Now that we can be really reactionary to that now because we've lost 8 games in a bounce, and you think, oh, that's such a stupid idea. But actually, when it was signed, it makes sense. It shows you the type of person Steven Naismith is, right? You're really looking at for the other coaches there to say, look, these guys, I don't want them worrying gone into this season having had a successful season that they might have to start looking for new jobs, could have their head turns, etc. We can trigger an extension for a year, and it gives us another year to worry about it. And the club sensibly, with the 3-month notice period, they're in no worse state now than they would have been if they hadn't give them the contract extension. Do you know what I mean? So I like that he cleared that up too.
Yeah, and on the contract extension as well, that when it got triggered, I can't remember many people going, I don't think that's a good idea, because it was at the start of the season when there was a lot of excitement. I think it was just after the Rangers 0-0 game, which was one of the few, if only, encouraging performances of the season. So it did seem to make sense after the season it was, and then you're looking at Naismith just with his pedigree down south and his names. Like, if he has another a strong start to the season, then teams down in England potentially might view him as an option. So at the time, it made sense. All it does is show that football can just change drastically, and it's just such a strange environment. But these things happen. So like the whole contract thing, I thought there was a lot made out of nothing in the fact that they rewarded a management team for being successful, and now they've after the worst start to the season, the worst start to a season in the club's history, they've been kind of relieved of their duties. So just because both decisions make sense to give them the contract, but also relieve them their duties.
The only thing that I would touch on was that it's the same thing they did with Robbie Neilson. That's the only bit that worried me, was that now the two same mistakes. They extended Robbie Neilson, Liam McCulloch and Gordon Forrest's contract at the start of the season, where we had European group stage football, having secured third the season before, and we've done the same thing with Naismith and that. But again, he's explained it after hearing his explanation and why, without having recency bias, because we are rubbish right now, that made perfect sense for where it was, and it actually shows the club, for me and Steven Naismith, in a good light, and it's financially not impacted us in any way, shape or form. So I don't get the pant wetting. There's lots to wet your pants about. That's not one of them.
And I suppose finally, Graham asked, were you surprised there were no bids for Shankland, as McKinlay says?
No, not really. I think you look back at where he's come from to where he is, he's obviously wants to go to Rangers. He's a Rangers fan. Rangers have made it abundantly clear that they want him, but they want to pay money for him because they don't have any. So it's up to Hearts to go and try and lure him to stay. I think they were very, very, very close in terms of what would be the right number to keep him. But they did the right thing, where they weren't going to be held to ransom by agents or players. They put an offer on the table and said, this is literally the best that you're getting from us. Take it, leave it. It's completely and utterly up to you. I don't know if it was impacted by him going to the Euros to put the cones out and wash the boots. I don't know if that helped. And the fact that he couldn't get a game or any length of time on that stage to cement any sort of people that think maybe he'll take a punt on him. If he'd got a goal there, maybe, like he could have potentially went on to somewhere or got bids to start. And Hearts have made it pretty clear to Rangers now, given the new setup and the current board that we have, is we won't do IOU business with them. We've been stung before with Lee Wallace and money owed to us. They won't take money from Rangers in instalments, and Rangers don't have physical cash to pay the £5-6 million that Lorne Shankland's goals would get us in Europe. Having said that, he scored none so far. So
I was going to say, it would be typical if we handed him this massive contract and he just never scored again.
Never scored again. They may start however.
The way I looked at it is, so two avenues. I wasn't overly surprised there was no offers for him, just because if you just break it down, go down to just with his age and his lack of pace, it kind of ruled out a lot of the English interest in how much they'd be willing to spend, and then you're kind of with the way Rangers are, you're kind of relying on someone from abroad to come in for him. So I wasn't overly surprised there was no offers for him, but I felt sorry for him that there was no offers, because he just had two of the best seasons of his life back to back. Was unbelievable last season, and then just not to have anyone that go, you know what, he's probably worth a punt. But
I feel sorry for him now. Everybody's allowed to have a dip. He scored 8 goals or something like that in X amount of games for Hearts. Everybody's allowed to have a dip in form. His dip in form has been magnified hundreds because no one else scores goals, and that for me is no fair. Like, I get it, he hasn't played well. I get all that. No one in Hearts jerseys played well, but he's allowed to have a dip in form. People should be bailing him out, and that for me is, I feel a bit sorry for him up there, knowing that if he doesn't score, Hearts don't score. If Hearts don't score, we don't win, and that's exactly where we are right now. Here's one thing I was going to ask you, was about looking at the analytics bit. You talked about there our 31 goal striker last season. He's going to, I think he's our joint European goal scorer. If he scores another one, I think he goes ahead of Robbo as our all-time leading goal scorer in Europe, and we can't get any bids for him. How does that then work with the whole Tony Bloom Star Lizard idea of bring someone in on money or low bids and decent value of money and then sell them for big bucks?
So looking at, just using Brighton as an example, you look at the way their squad is built. So it's essentially there's two squads within one, or two thoughts within one squad. You've got more experienced players who have been there and done it and know the league and set the standards and have that experience, for the other lot who are the young guys who are brought in from all over, who have got real potential, promise they see as being able to be a positive impact in the first team straight away, but also able to build them up 1, 2, 3 years time and then sell them. So I don't think we'll stop signing experienced players, because I think what Brighton have showed is that you need both. You need guys who are going to lead the dressing room. You're going to have set the standards in the dressing room and provide that experience for the younger guys who maybe are a bit inconsistent and just kind of finding their way. So I think
I think the other thing too is that it puts not pressure on whoever comes in as a manager, but if we want to sell them at their top value, if we do bring them in, say we do spend £1 million or a couple of £1 million on a player, if we want to sell them in 2 or 3 years down the line, they have to be playing in Europe. They have to be playing on that big stage to show their potential. Because look at Majowski at Aberdeen. He scored a barrel load of goals in 2 seasons, and would they get $6 million for him or something? So it's going to be hard. That's going to be the good thing from a Hearts fan perspective, is whoever comes in manager-wise will have to have his team in Europe, because that's the platform where these big money transfers that have transformed, especially the Belgian side. The English Premier League is inflated, so anybody that comes in and half a good season there is going to go for £60 million. That's par for the course there. But in Belgium, it's how they've managed to go from where they are and turn their players around by playing in Europe year in, year out. So I think that's how you counter the worry of, because that was my worry, is if we spend £1 million, £2 million on a player and we don't play in Europe, you're never going to get somebody that's going to come back in and spend another £1-2 million on a player that's only playing in Scottish football.
Yeah, absolutely. And last one before we finish up. Who should be the goalkeeper, Clark or Gordon? Ask Scottish TV Gold.
Everybody knows my views on this. Craig Gordon is an absolute Hearts legend. He's one of, if not the only, truly world-class football player that I've ever seen play for Hearts. And when I say that, I mean that at the height of his powers, he would have got a game for any of the top sides in Europe quite comfortably. But he's 42 in a month and a half or whatever it is. He clawed his way back from a horrible injury. For me, the club should have gave him the platform to have a send-off to thank him. Let the fans thank him. Let him get the heroes send-off that he deserves. And send him on his merry way, because there's no future in Craig Gordon. As horrible as that sounds, and as horrible it is to say, and we're going to lose 2 goalkeepers now. We're going to lose Xander Clark in the summer because he's not going to sign in the contract extension, sitting on the bench, and Craig Gordon thinks he's going to play next year as well. So it's been a bit of a mess, if I'm being completely honest. Xander Clark's stats in the 68 competitive games for Hearts are better than Craig Gordon's last 68 competitive games for Hearts. He has more clean sheets. We have a better win ratio with Clark in goals, and that's not to diminish anything about Craig Gordon, because even this season, Craig Gordon has kept the scoreline respectable in some matches that we've played. Thinking of the Falkirk one, we could have scored a barrel load in the first 25 minutes, but we also could have conceded the barrel load in the rest of the game. And he made a mistake in that game. But yeah, for me, it should be Xander Clark, but it's sad. It pains me to say that, because Craig Gordon is a Hearts hero.
Yeah, it's an interesting one going forward, and I think that's one where there were just moments where you're just thinking Naismith was just maybe a wee bit indecisive, and you just got to go, right, this is our goalkeeper, and that probably didn't really help at the start of the season, where it was, you just weren't sure who the number 1 was. It looks like it is Gordon at the moment, but we'll see how that changes. Right, we will finish up there. Liam, thank you very much. That was a pleasure to speak to you, and thanks very much for coming on. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening and continuing to engage, support, subscribe, and listen. You can check Liam and his podcast out at This Is My Story, both podcast and YouTube as well. For us, we'll be back at some point this week, whether it is likely to be previewing the game against Ross County on Saturday, another must-win game for Hearts, and to see a look ahead to Liam Fox's first match as interim boss. But until then, thank you very much and goodbye.